power of good? Indeed, was there none left in all Middle-earth with strength to aid our dying cause?
All funky colors. Shapes that swing.
It's impossible.
And it is virtually.
I want to ask you both because this is, I would say, arguably the gayest Star Wars, I think, by a considerable margin. And are you excited about that? Are you
Not
bracing
the gayest
yourself?
Star Wars. Not the.
It's pretty gay, let's be honest. Leslie, how do you feel?
Am I gay?
Are you,
Yes.
Well, no, I know
Yeah.
you are gay, but I'm asking, are you excited about putting this, this is going to be a talking point.
Is it going to be a talking point?
I'm sure some.
Because nerds are gay.
Well,
Yeah.
some nerds are very not gay and are very threatened by gay
Well, that's
stuff.
true. But
Yeah.
in my world, nerds are gay.
Okay. Was this the fun element of...
No,
Okay.
I don't think so. And yet people have told me that it's the gayest Star Wars, and I frankly
You're offended?
into it. No.
I think that Star Wars is so gay already.
Is there a problem, people?
No problem at all, Mrs. Kennedy.
We were just discussing ideas of what to do with the new Prince Eric movie.
Put a chick in it, make her gay!
Yes, Miss Kennedy, some of the execs are just expressing that maybe...
Well, that maybe we should go a different route than we did with Indiana Jones.
Indiana Jones, put a chick in it and make her name it gay!
This episode brought to you by boats. They are floaty because they look up and rocks are sinky because they look down. Is this really what they said in the show? How did this cost $1 billion? I will never know.
Welcome, everybody, to the holiest month of the year. It's that time again. What, Silver? Did you observe privately? Is that the problem? You observe silently. Set out your votive candles. What?
Nothing. It is a very holy month to some, I guess.
Uh-huh. How's
Hear
it
my
going?
cat. My cat.
I don't hear your cat.
Thank goodness.
Else we might have to cast it out. Get rid of it.
No!
Yeah, I think we might.
Speak for the people. Come on, kitty.
You speak for no people. Jason, how's it going? No, Jason. Silver, how's it going?
Great. Less great since Rings of Power, but great.
What do you mean?
I mean, well, we're going to talk about it later, but yes, we watched it. At least
Yeah.
I did. I don't know if Jason watched it.
Yeah, I super watched the first episode. I super did. And this is gonna be our thing. We're gonna watch Rings of Power
Jesse's back.
one day a week. What's up, Jesse? And slowly review a show we all neglected to see because we weren't interested.
We're scared.
We're very afraid. The amazing Jesse has returned to us. Jason is apparently MIA, and who knows what's going on with Ross. I knew he had some family reunion thing with the girlfriend, and like he needed to go, but he wasn't sure if he was gonna be tired. I don't know. Excuses. Belligerent.
Yeah, I don't think he watched Rings of
horrible-
Power. I think that's why.
belligerent, horrible excuses. That being said, it is a fun time once again this week. We get to talk about all the cool things.
Do you hear me?
Yes,
He's here.
Jason.
I was here the whole freaking time. I don't know what is going on with Discord, but when I click off of it to look at something, like I pulled up the articles for today, and I was just looking through what was there. And when I switch back to Discord, it's like you don't have a mic anymore.
Oh.
I had to go into the settings and tell it, yes, I do still have a mic, and it's still the one that you're saying that is the active one. And then it came back on. So,
Well, sounds like a personal problem.
I don't know what it is. I've used this setup before, and it hadn't done that in the past, and now it's just really ticking me off. But I guess I will be looking at the articles on my tablet rather than on my laptop, so that it doesn't happen again. Hopefully,
Whatever you got to do.
There.
Hot secret. A lot of things go on in the background so that you guys don't have to get exposed to it. Much like during the week I do editing, and earlier in the day I get on and make sure everything's working, and at least an hour before the podcast I make sure all the sound is working, because that's what you do.
I got on and I said, "Can you guys hear me?" And Silver said, "Yeah, I can hear you." And I thought you said something, and so my mic was working right then. And then like I said, I switched off to look at the articles for the podcast today. And when I switched back to Discord, it was like, you don't have a mic anymore.
Silver is a famous troll.
It had been working fine just before that.
Constantly.
Rude.
Silver, the famous bee racist.
Excuse you, the very cat named Bee is in the room right now.
Yeah, and you're racist.
How dare you.
You're a bee racist.
We're not doing this again.
What do you mean we're not? We never stopped doing it. This will never end. This is going to be our life now.
Bee racism.
We're going to talk about bee racism, and we're going to refer to my legitimate law firm that represents bees.
Totally legitimate law firm.
Yeah, I don't understand sarcasm, so thank you for supporting my point. Silver.
Well, I'm glad you understand sarcasm.
You know, here's my first question.
Your law firm is.
Here's my first question, Silver. How dare you?
Yes. Is that a question?
Yes, it is a question.
Well, it has a question mark on the end. Didn't you hear the uptick in his voice right there as he got to the end? It wasn't a.
In fact, I did not.
You know,
my follow-up question: where do you get off?
On fighting against this fake bee law firm.
Well, this is why you're a bee racist. Jason, how's the week going?
Well, I finished 2 books. I finished that one that I talked about last week, The Shadow Pavilion. I like the series. It's good. It doesn't have any white people in it, so I don't know why I like it, because apparently I can't like it because there's no representation. But I like it anyway.
You can't relate to other human beings because...
no, I can't.
You don't have any connection to it. No, it is a darker... See, Jesse asks like the Bee movie. This is a darker and more sinister situation than the Bee movie. Silver is
in my mind, it is like the Bee movie.
No, Silver is genuinely a bee racist. Anyway, Jason.
Benson Bee is not a real bee.
How dare you?
Let's see. I also read. So I've watched Rising of the Shield Hero. I actually read the first 2 volumes of the manga recently as well. It's still amazing. What else?
The last season of Rise of the Shield Hero kind of petered out for me, if I'm going to be honest.
I haven't seen the latest season yet. It's on my to watch list, so Yeah, that's been the weird thing about anime recently. You know, One Punch Man, Overlord.
Well,
Trying to think of
Overlord
some of the
just
others.
gets worse over time.
Oh yeah, yeah. The first season was amazing. Second season was pretty good. Third season, no, the third season they just went off the deep end with it.
It's just a
Um,
decline in quality. Overlord mostly sucks.
yeah, and then like season 2 of One Punch Man was was kind of a
No, it
letdown after
sucked.
season 1.
It sucked, and it's based off of one of my favorite sections in the manga, which is really good.
It was
And
so
yet,
good.
for some reason, season 2 they pulled it off just horrifically.
Yeah. So I don't know what it is about the quality. It's like they get this first really good season that hooks us all, and we get into it, and then there's just like, well, now they're hooked. We can do whatever the heck we want, and it just into the
Well, it's
garbage.
because they get a good idea, they run with it for a season or two, and then they don't know where to go from there.
Yeah, that's
because
true.
oftentimes the good idea is what gets you the deal, so you can make the manga or you can make the anime or whatever. It's like Beastars. Season 1 of Beastars on Netflix, awesome. Season 2, eh. and it's going to be done in season 3. And apparently part of the problem was the writer of it. She basically just didn't know how to end the story, so she just ended it.
Oh.
Yeah, some people don't know how to wrap up a story. They could start it with an interesting idea, but they can't wrap it up. I mean,
I really felt that, especially in the last couple, the last season, especially of Overlord, they really didn't stick to. They didn't really honor what they'd started with Ain's character, where he was like, "Let's not kill all the humans." Yeah, yeah, I have this thing where I could kill all the humans, but I don't want to do that. But then it's just like,
I think
screw
the
that.
premise, Jason, is he's losing his humanity, which makes it less interesting.
Could be.
Because I don't want to see a villain just kill people and be evil. Like, I just don't care.
Right. It made him an interesting character that he was like, I could totally just wreck this planet, but I want to maintain that humanity. And he keeps trying throughout to like teach his underlings, no, don't kill all the humans. Don't kill all the humans.
Yes,
But
and he
now it's just
starts
like,
to let that go.
yeah. And it's like, that doesn't make for a compelling viewing. It just
Which is why a lot of
now.
people don't like Overlord as it's getting into the later seasons.
Yeah. Anyway, let's see. Trying to think if there's. I mean, I'm sure there's other stuff. I read a bunch of articles for the podcast this
Yeah,
week.
you added a bunch, and there is a lot to go through, and we're going to do our best to hit everything.
There's so much.
I did watch the first episode of Rings of Power.
Yeah, this was the homework.
And had to irrigate my brain afterwards.
Even though Ross escaped, this was the homework that we were going to actually watch Rings of Power.
Does he get a punishment? Is that a thing?
Yes.
Can we do that?
We can.
Cool.
He can't join us for 2 episodes.
Isn't that a blessing? He doesn't get to watch Rings of Power.
No, he still has to watch it. That's the punishment. He still has to watch episode 1 and 2, but he can't talk about them and have that cathartic release.
It's not enough. Like, do they have stocks still? Can we get some stocks?
We force him to watch it on a loop.
On a loop, perpetually. Awesome. Silver, you're gonna something about homework? I don't know.
Same old. Not interesting to talk about.
Did you watch anything?
You don't want to hear about calculus.
Yeah.
Are you doing summer classes then?
Yeah.
Summer class.
That sucked.
Summer class.
I mean, it does help you get done with school faster, but it's that thing where they like shoot you with a fire hose in those classes. They're like,
yes, I can't believe
this,
how difficult this one is.
Is this an 8-week or 4-week class?
If it were 4 weeks, you would know.
Yeah. So it ends like August 9th or something.
Yeah, it's well, it might be an 11-week because they do have some of those
Yeah.
for the summer. But yeah, calculus class in the summer, oh, that's got to be murder.
Oh, it's so cruel. The guy will teach you like the basic easy part of it, and you're like, oh, this is easy. You get to the homework, and it's the most confusing, like out of your mind stuff ever. I'm like, you didn't teach this. What are you doing?
I think the worst teacher I ever had was a math teacher. And I'm not just talking like they poorly explained it. It was some grad student who had to get the credit for graduation and was teaching an overcrowded room with just too many people. And she would write a formula and then do other stuff. And then she accidentally erased the formula. And she goes, oh, I shouldn't have erased that. Well, if you didn't get that down, that's your fault.
Ouch.
I was like, oh, screw you, lady.
I had I had a grad student teach one of the math classes that I was in. I thought she did a great job, but there was like some criticisms that I heard from the rest of the class. The thing is that she was a Chinese lady, and there was no problem with her accent. She spoke English very well. The problem was she didn't speak very loud. And so if you were sitting in the back of the class, you had a hard time hearing her. And so, some people would raise their hand and say, I couldn't quite hear you. And she would go back over the stuff if you missed it. She was really good, really a good teacher. She understood the material. But like I said, I could understand that could be an issue if you're not speaking loud enough that everybody in the room can hear you. And she just didn't speak up very loud. So
I had I think it was Latvian or Lithuanian, one of the Baltic states. And he taught, I think it was a stats class. And he had a thick accent, but it was understandable. But the problem is you had to pay attention to understand his accent, right? Because if you couldn't half listen while you're writing stuff down and not hear what he said. And the sad part was he was such a nice guy, and he would give you jokes every now and then, like insert a joke in there, and then no one would respond because we didn't get it was a joke because his accent made it sound like deadpan. So it was hard to tell he was saying a joke or not. So no one would say anything, and it'd be like, oh.
Poor guy.
Didn't nail it at all. But that's the inevitability of education. Speaking of education, good Lord, where do we start with this day? Do we start with Rings of Power? Do we just Rings of Power for a while? Because that's got to be a bigger discussion. So let me.
I mean, there are a couple of articles that have to deal with
that'll come later.
That deal with Rings of Power. We could pull them in if we wanted to, but
if you think it's relevant, I'm just going to play the trailer on a loop here. So I did my best. I didn't demand this of anybody else. I already had quite a bit of a bias towards the show. I'm a hardcore Tolkien fan. I love the original books. One of my favorite books is The Hobbit. I love the original movies. They're some of my favorite movies. So clearly I'm going to judge this mirrored against the other works. But I did my best to view it as its own thing, just to separate it and be as fair as possible, despite the fact that it's going to be difficult to be fair when I've already heard like 20 reviews of the show and I know what's going to happen and I know the problems with it. But because I had such a expectation it was going to be just a steaming pile of horse crap, which it is, it didn't hit as bad as my expectation was. I think my bigger disappointment was the writing. And the writing overall for episode 1 was just abysmal. The character dialogue, the way stuff sets up, Galadriel's not a likable character.
No, she's terrible. The thing is that I'm wondering if there will be a lot more disappointment later. You know what I
Well,
mean?
there
It's
might
like
be, but
this is the first episode.
the best we could do
And
is judge it by
so
the first episode. So
yeah. So I'm very much like you, Rhett. I read I read The Hobbit when I was in grade school, and I read the Lord of the Rings when I was in junior high, and I have read those books now. I can't tell you how many times I've read them, and I own um, multiple copies of them. I own like really nice hardback editions of them, um, as well as like some paper, some I've gone through at least one set of paperbacks. I can't read them anymore because they're falling apart. They actually belong to my dad, um,
anyway,
and stuff. And so I'm with you. Like, you know, I anytime I see something Tolkien where they're coming out and they're saying, "Hey, Lord of the Rings, hey, The Hobbit," I'm hopeful because I want to see them done well. I want to see them on.
I
I want to
definitely
see
was in the camp
that
of I
honor.
wanted it to be good.
Yeah, but I definitely had a problem watching this um, because of all the negative press that had come out. I expected it to be awful. I expected it to be the worst
And
viewing
you think that
experience of my
that
life.
colored your perception going in?
I do. I do think it colored my perception. The thing is that I think if this was something like I didn't care about it at all, and I wasn't so steeped in the lore as I am, I think I may have enjoyed it, but realized that there were a
Oh,
bunch
I
of
wouldn't
problems
have.
with it. Like,
I wouldn't
uh,
have.
well, I may have enjoyed it for the spectacle, not necessarily for what it was. You know what I mean?
Just as a generic
I
fantasy.
don't know if
I,
I'm.
I, I
Yeah.
suppose. I mean, let's keep it as general perception because we'll go into bit of detail here in a moment. Silver, what do you think generally of the show?
I don't think they executed it well at all. The writing, especially the dialogue, is so weird. Like the quote you put, or quote, the whole rock thing. They're trying to be they're trying to act like they're Tolkien or something, and it's just not working.
To me, that bit of dialogue reminded me of the emo kid in high school and him saying stuff to try to sound deep.
My
Yes,
parents
that's what
don't
it feels like.
understand me.
Yeah.
They're trying to sound mythical and wise, and it's like,
Well, it just doesn't make any
what?
sense. To address Jesse's point, is this a good series if you weren't relating it to Lord of the Rings? Solely based upon the first episode, because we're going to watch one episode a week until season 2 comes out. Solely based upon the first episode, it is I would consider it a mediocre, poorly written, badly constructed fantasy show with way too much money.
Yeah.
If you have nothing to do and there's literally you only have this show to watch, why not as a lark? But I wouldn't recommend it at all. Like, it's just
the
not.
thing is that they definitely did really well with the visuals.
Sometimes.
You know what I mean?
No.
Well, so but like the scenery, I wouldn't say necessarily
I wouldn't agree.
People.
All of the backgrounds you were clearly green screen, all of them. There was a moment where they're standing by a cliff. You know what? Let's just start at the beginning. So they start out at Valinor, and there are a bunch of little kids running around. Now, to give people context, Valinor is like heaven, essentially, in Lord of the Rings. It's where the gods live. It's where the elves come from. And little kids are running around, and she makes a paper boat that's gonna sink. Like, I don't know what she thinks is gonna happen. It's gonna sink. But she puts it in the water, and then basically she gets bullied by a bunch of kids who throw rocks at her boat, and it sinks, and then she gets in a fight with them. immediately I'm like, in
It
heaven?
doesn't make any sense.
You're having a fist fight in heaven? Bullying is a thing in okay. All right.
Yeah.
Like the kids are bullying her because she's trying to be this visionary, whatever. All right.
There's absolutely no context for that scene.
No.
None whatsoever.
She's just
It's like
floating a boat.
we don't know. Yeah, it's like she's putting the boat in the water. This is like you're chilling with your friends on a summer day, and you're like, hey, I learned how to make a paper boat, and they're like, oh, cool, let's see it. And then for some reason it turns vicious. It's like, what in the world is going on here? There's no context for that scene at all.
Well, and
doesn't
it
help
wants
us
you
identify with Galadriel at all.
Well, they're trying to give you a scene where Finrod, her brother, sits her down and gives you advice. So the bullies sink her boat so that he could sit down and tell her something that's going to be profound so that she can reflect on it, and it might mirror her story or give it as a guide for where her character is going to go into the future, that sort of thing. I typed out exactly the dialogue. So I'm going to read this to you, and I want you to do your best to tell me what in the hell they're talking about. All right? Do you know why a ship floats and a stone cannot? Because a stone sees only downward. The ship feels the darkness as well. The darkness of the water is vast and irresistible. The ship feels the darkness as well, striving moment by moment to master her and pull her under. But the ship has a secret, for unlike the stone, her gaze is not downward but up, fixed upon the light that guides her, whispering of grander things than darkness ever knew. But sometimes the light shines just as brilliantly reflected on the water as they do in the sky. And she says, it's hard to say which way is up and which way is down. How am I supposed to know which lights to follow? And then that he reveals later what he says about that. Not only is it practically uncomprehensible, like the dialogue, but it's written to try. I guarantee you, they thought that they were sounding Tolkien-esque, and they were trying to make it sound profound, as if Tolkien had written this himself. He did not write any of this dialogue. This conversation never happens in the books. And it is the biggest pile of horse crap. Like, what are they talking?
Not the first thing you hear.
Yes. This is the first thing you hear. And I'm like, what do you mean boats look up and rocks look down? Like, I suppose symbolically. The boat is supposed to represent her, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's what they're going for. Eventually, she'll be either tempted by the dark, and she needs to choose the light, and that's what she'll end up doing. But yeah, it's complete and utter nonsense. It makes no sense at all, and there's no context for that particular scene other than some payoff later down the line.
Kind of. It's not even a great payoff, if I'm going to be honest.
No.
But
no, she's gonna be tempted by Sauron, and the words of her brother are gonna come into her mind, and she's gonna turn away from him. Blah blah blah. It's
at any rate, after that, you get glory shots of the land. You see the two trees. And then there's a bunch of internal dialogue because it seems like there's an effort to remember Peter Jackson's movies? Like the soaring shots over the map to give you like an idea of where they're going to be and that sort of thing. And there's the over dialogue with Morfydd Clark, who plays Galadriel, sort of giving you the dialogue over it. Morfydd Clark is not great. I'm just going to tell you. And then it shows
maybe she's a good actress. Maybe she's not. I can't tell because of the garbage that they gave her in this movie to act out.
Oh,
She
and
just
by the
is. She
way,
just comes across as insufferable, and unlikable.
yes. And that's a problem for a character you're supposed to like, who's the center of the story.
Yeah.
It shows a
Yeah,
pile of
you need
skulls
to
and it
root for that
implies
main character.
it shows a pile of skulls and it implies that Sauron kills her brother and puts the scar on him. And she's really butthurt about it. So she goes off on this quest. And I know later, I know this is a little bit of a reveal for the future, but they call her the leader of the Army of the North, which, as far as I could tell, is like 10 people. But they have this scene where she's climbing up a cliff and she enters this area, and there's this weird moment where she's like, evil is here because it's colder. And I was like, when was evil colder? I don't. All right.
Yeah, that was strange.
Evil is always cold. Didn't you know that?
You could tell there's an evil presence because it is cold. Or you're in the mountains.
And right from the get-go, all of her soldiers are like, this is stupid, why are we here? I would have protested before we got up that cliff. Not after you get to the top and been like, you know what? I'm not happy about this journey. Let's go home, you guys. But no, they get to the top, and there's this clear message of her soldiers aren't happy with her. They find this sort of tower and some tortured orcs, I guess, in the area. She finds the symbol that was written on her brother. And she's like, this means something. We need to keep going on this insane journey of revenge because I'm a psychopath. And the soldier's like, we're not going to do that. She kills this ice troll, and they're like, we're going home no matter what. You crazy woman. And that's practically most of the beginning part.
Yeah. The thing is that once again, we're at a point where all we see is her obsession. There's not even an indication that there's a message left behind for anybody who's following along to be like, oh, if you're one of the evil people, you need to keep going north. There's none of that. The sign that she finds is hidden, and they only stumble across it by accident. One of the elves leans against this thing, and it turns out that it's hot.
Yeah.
And he like jerks back, and then she like pours some water over it, and it reveals the symbol that they've been tracking. But there's nothing. There's all you see is the symbol. It's not even a symbol with a message that says, "Sorry, we left. Go north." You know, there's no indication of that this is a step in the journey to where the enemy is ultimately hiding. There's nothing.
Well, it
And
also
so there
implies
is no
that
indication.
Like I don't know what the storytellers are trying to say here, but they're giving me the impression that she's accomplished nothing. That she's gone on this journey and got nothing done. And it gets to a point where even her soldiers are like, we're not doing this anymore.
I mean, it would be something completely different for us if she got there and there was a clear indication that not only was evil here, which is we've got that, but that there was an indication of where it went from here. If there was some sort of indication that was like, if you find this sign, that means go this way. If you find this sign, it means go this way. You know, something of that nature where it's like, instead, this just looks abandoned, and all we know is that sign could have been left there magically by what was going on beforehand.
Well, Jason,
And
they
so,
set it up heavily in the show, but we haven't gotten there. That essentially she's the only one that sees the problem that's coming. She's the only one with the wisdom to know what's going to come down. And everybody else is blind to what's going to happen. So she's basically smarter than the rest of us. She knows better than the rest of us. And basically all of the important elves just don't know anything. They're delusional, if you will.
right. Yeah, no, I get that. But the problem, but that's a huge problem with the story. you need to pull you need to pull the viewer, the reader, whoever. You need to pull them along so that they're on the same page with with the
with the main
protagonist.
character.
We
Yeah.
can't be left sitting there going, the the protagonist is a crazy lady. We have to say, no, everybody else is wrong and she is right. And we have to they have to point out to us that the clues that she picked up that other people missed.
Well,
And they haven't
she,
done that.
the characters around her present her as if she's crazy. She herself, her acting is presented like she's crazy. And I don't know how else to interpret that this is an insane woman on a revenge kick that she's never going to let go of. That this is what the show is telling me to interpret. Like, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know how to interpret it any differently. We don't need to get bogged down on the details. Silver, anything to add before we move on?
She's put across as like very arrogant.
Yeah.
Won't listen to anyone else.
Yeah.
I do what I want, sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and then we see the quote unquote Harfoots. Oh
god.
The reason why they're Harfoots and not hobbits is because Amazon doesn't own the rights to say hobbits. So they're called Harfoots. And they're basically presented as a bunch of degenerate, homeless, dirty people.
Yeah.
Just wandering around.
They steal stuff, and they're basically gypsies, or at least the European conception of gypsies. They wander in and they steal stuff, and
Well, and there aren't that many of them. How many would you guess there are?
There look to be maybe 50 tops.
Yeah. A very small group of people, very insular. And immediately we're like, oh, this is a very diverse group of people. And it's like, I'm going to address this as not that I care that they're diverse, but if they were, let's say, darker skinned individuals and lighter skinned individuals in a very small group of people, they would have interbred and they would have all been brown, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But we have very clearly there's some black Harfoots, and very clearly there are some white Harfoots, and all of them have British accents of one sort or another. So if this story wanted to present an accurate portrayal of a very small insular group of people, they would all be brown because they would have all intermarried at this point. Right. They would be more homogenous because there's no other population to interact with where they can add new, different, like darker melanin people or lighter melanin people, however the group started out as. So immediately I'm like, okay, so this decision was made mostly for the reason we all know it was made for, because, hey, we need more diversity in this, but whatever. They come across as mostly just like degenerate hobo-ish. I get the impression that much like when the hobbits are presented in Lord of the Rings, that you're supposed to watch this and sort of giggle at little goofy moments, and I got nothing out of the whole presentation. There was no quirky moments where I was like, haha, that's a funny little person, or that here's a person doing some other little like quirky thing. Like none of the characters came across as charming or interesting. They find some berries and they eat them like absolute savages. Like they basically grab berries and rub them on their faces and partially get into their mouths. That's essentially how that comes across.
It is like a bunch of toddlers, like, berries.
Yeah, it's a bunch of toddlers. Head Harfoot. I know he's a famous British actor, but I don't watch British television. With the sideburns. He talks about weird stuff going on. He keeps looking at his book, because apparently all the wisdom is in his book. And they eat like savages. And then the story moves on to Elrond talking to Galadriel, and basically Galadriel talks down to him and acts like he's not that important.
Yeah, can I just say that that the elves with the short hair um, are just weird.
It creeps me
They're just
out.
weird.
Well, Lord of the
Yeah.
Rings lore, they should have long, like, wispy hair sort of thing. So it's not lore accurate. But once again, this is a different story. We don't need to super measure it, but that's not how they play out in the story. So with the short hair, and my mother, like, I watched this with my mother, she kept saying, man, he's got awful hair and it's very coiffed, if you will, very, like, fluffed Elrond's hair.
So when I say this, I know you'll know who I'm talking about, but Doogie Elrond.
Yeah, he does look a bit like Doogie Howser.
Yeah, Elrond looks like the coolest elf in elf school. That hair.
Well, one of the things they really play down Elrond.
Who's a very important person, who should be hundreds of years old at this point, and they present him like he's 22.
Yeah, the thing is that they for no apparent reason other than to say how looked down upon Elrond actually is. They this messenger comes in to talk to Elrond and is like, they're having a meeting, only elf lords allowed, and he's like, oh, okay.
He is
and
an
then
elf lord.
he's like, oh, by the way, right, but in Rings of Power, apparently he's not. Apparently, he's just like a nobody. Later, when you first meet Elrond, he's writing something, and it comes out later that he was writing the speech that Gil-galad gives to Galadriel, congratulating her for her service and telling her she gets to go back to Valinor.
Yeah.
And so Elrond is basically a nobody. He is a descendant of Luthien. He is a descendant of very, very noble families of humans and elves.
Well, he's nobility
he is
by
a
birth,
king,
flat out.
yeah, he is a king in his own right, either by his elvish side or his human side. Maybe not king, but anyway, like I said, he is nobility. Either side of the family that you're going to look on, and they're treating him as a servant. And so,
I think by the Hobbit,
just...
he is considered the highest ranking Noldor, so the High King of the Noldor in Middle Earth. But, go ahead, Silver.
Yeah, that was something I found weird, was that when you first see him sitting in the tree, another elf comes up to him. It's like, oh yeah, you're not allowed to participate in the council today, just so you know. See ya.
Why would you show up to tell him that? That's kind of...
Yeah.
By the way, you're not important. Bye.
Exactly. And that's the only reason that they put it in there, was to show us how unimportant this male elf is.
You think they're trying to undermine...
I'd rather follow him.
You think they're trying to undermine the rulers to make them look like stuffy or full of themselves?
Or they're trying to undermine them so that we see how important and smart and capable Galadriel is.
Yeah. At any rate, they have a conversation. It shows more Harfoots and nothing important happens. They move on to Galadriel gets to go home. Hey, everybody, Galadriel's going home. And they have the fireworks festival because the war is over for them and Galadriel's going home. I don't remember elves doing fireworks, if I'm going to be honest. But, all right, that's fine.
I think
they're doing a wink and a nod to the movies.
Well, there is that, but I think in the books, I'd have to go back to The Hobbit and read that or reread that part. But there may have been fireworks in Rivendell for the Midsummer Festival kind of thing when The Hobbit and the dwarves got there. But
I have the impression that, hey, there were hobbits in the original one, and then they also had fireworks in the first movie. We have to have those. And that's why there are fireworks. Not because there's any legitimate reason. Anyway, her and Elrond have a conversation, and she talks down to him and gives this very aggressive and demeaning like talk with him where she's like, "You have not seen what I have seen," and I'm like, "Wow." So there's nothing, and it's funny because she talks about like she's seen this amazing evil when she didn't fight in the war, when she wasn't involved in a lot of the rest of the conflicts, and yet somehow she's gonna talk down to him where it's like, "I've seen more dead than you. You can't understand." And it's, okay,
Yeah, and he's like,
maybe
"What?
help him.
But I've seen my share of evil."
Well, and maybe help him
He's gonna
understand,
brush
as
them.
opposed to trash talk him that he doesn't understand. Yeah, okay, tell him he doesn't understand.
Treats him like an idiot.
Yeah. Then we go to Southlands with Human Village and Don Lemon with the faded haircut that isn't realistic, but whatever. And Bronwyn, who's super awesome and the cleanest of the dirty people, and it's implied they have a relationship. And there seems to be some sickness. He overhears a conversation, and the cow shoots out sick milk, and he's like, "We better check it out."
Yeah.
Also, they said that they're gonna get rid of the watchtowers and no longer watch the people in the south because they were people who sided with Morgoth. If you don't know anything about Lord of the Rings, Morgoth was the big bad, and Sauron was a lieutenant, and Morgoth gets taken out, and Sauron still exists, so he becomes a new bad guy.
Yeah.
Oh, and also her son is hiding like clearly evil sword that kind of gives you the impression they're doing a One Ring thing where he touches it and he gets little sea stuff. Yeah. Anyway, moving on, unless you have something to say, Jason.
So there are a couple of things that they very, very painfully pointed out to us. There was this one human when he first went into the village. They end up like at the pub, which is this dirty hovel, and Arondir, that's his name. One of the humans confronts him and is like, you could see that there's hate between the humans and the elves in this area, and they went to a lot of trouble to point it out to us. They stressed it quite heavily that the elves, their presence was not appreciated, which seemed, whatever. But then they go to the same extreme to point out that Bronwyn and Arondir are having a relationship.
Oh, did you know? Did you note the knife ear comment?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a term used in the works ever. At no point do people call elves knife ears. Do you know where it comes from?
Not off the top of my head.
Dragon Age is where that comes from.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's where that comment comes from. Clearly, one of the writers watched Dragon Age or played Dragon Age, the game, and really liked that derisive comment for elves, but that has nothing to do with Tolkien. It never shows up in anything. Yeah.
No. Anyway, the humans never were really at odds with the elves.
Well, it depends on which humans. They're like evil humans.
Or like the Haradrim and the Easterlings and stuff like that. But there was never really a, like, if anything, the humans didn't care about the elves.
Yeah, they mostly had elf stuff to do. It's like the dwarves; they were in the mountains. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
Anyway, Galadriel's gonna leave on the boat. She's very reluctant. She gives a lot of stink eye and unhappy face as they go leave on the boat. And then there's a very interesting conversation that happens between Glorfindel and Celebrimbor, where they talk about how we have this secret thing that we're building, and we need Elrond's help. Hint, hint. It's gonna be rings. And they make an interesting comment where they foresaw that if they didn't send her home, she would create the evil that she was trying to destroy. That's why she has to go home. And I guarantee you, that's what's going to happen. Is she's going to end up creating it, and it's all going to be her fault. Anyway, she gets on the boat, and then like literally they're getting to like heaven where a hole opens up, which is never described in the books, but whatever. This is how Rings of Power is going to present it, where a hole opens up as they're approaching Valinor. And you have to remember, they've sailed across the entirety of basically the Atlantic Ocean, standing for some reason. And they all start singing as they approach Valinor. And she gets trepidation, and she's like, I can't do it. She turns and she jumps off the boat into the water. In the meantime, everybody's looking around as a comet flies across the sky. It's like an evil omen. And the Harfoot see it. And then literally people across the planet in areas that shouldn't see it are seeing it. They see this comet. And it lands.
Everyone can see it.
Yeah, everybody can see it.
Direction.
Yes. Everybody can see it, and it lands, weirdly enough, near the Harfoots. And then the girl Sam and girl Frodo go and see. I think it might just be girl Frodo, but anyway, she goes and sees.
Yeah,
and there's this naked guy with a beard who's going to be our Gandalf proxy. If not, he's actually Gandalf. I'm going to treat this like this is how the show wants to present it. By the way, this is not remotely how it happens in the books. He does not fall out of the sky, especially when Valinor, heaven, is a literal location. Why would the gods just chuck him to Earth? Like, this is weird.
Yeah, seriously.
The
thing is he
got there on a boat. He would have already been there, but he would have gotten there by boat. Like, they wouldn't have just thrown him at Middle Earth.
From Valinor. Yeah.
And they threw him so hard. I'm going to reveal that this is stuff for the next one, but they threw him so hard he loses his memory, by the way. So he doesn't know who he is. But yeah, basically the gods just chucked him at Middle Earth, and they're like, here, fix it. Yeah, and then he shows up, and he's just this guy with beard, and he's supposed to be wizard, ? And everybody thinks it's probably Gandalf because of the Harfoots, but then they're like, ooh, it could be Saruman. And it's like, oh, that
could be Saruman.
That could be a thing. Nobody knows. But yeah, reflections.
If they do make it Saruman, if they make it anybody but Gandalf, they're really missing an opportunity.
Well, it seems like they're trying to go, see, Gandalf like the hobbits from the beginning. I'm sorry, Harfoots from the beginning.
Right, exactly. See, that's the thing. Gandalf always concerned himself with the other races of Middle Earth, whereas Saruman didn't. And so if they do make this someone who's not Gandalf, it will subvert our expectations, but it wouldn't be a good move for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like we all know who this is, but there's no reason why we should expect you to actually treat this well, because so far you haven't. So
Silver?
It could be anything.
Yeah, it's very strange that they're like, oh, let's chuck him to Middle Earth. When wasn't there supposed to be, I don't know the others, besides Saruman and Radagast.
There were two blue wizards that are never named.
Yeah, they don't have names.
So were they also just thrown to Middle Earth? Like,
I don't know.
Just chucked down?
They might have been.
Like a baseball.
Anyway, conclusions to the first episode. Excited for what's going to happen episode 2?
No.
Episode 1 definitely does not heighten expectations.
Fact that they leave Galadriel in the mid. This is basically like Galadriel is in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. There is nothing for thousands of miles in any direction, and they're supposed to expect us to think that she treaded water and swam back to Middle Earth.
Uh-huh.
I mean, come on, what kind of morons do you take
She's
us for?
Galadriel. She's awesome and better than everybody. What are you talking about?
I mean, it would make more sense if like she jumped in the water and suddenly found she could walk on it.
By the way, Galadriel is supposed to be like 6'4", and we have a tiny little woman.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she's supposed to be gigantic. And also at this point, because if I remember in commentary before the show that the writers are talking about, well, she's younger and more impetuous, and she's not the one that we know in Lord of the Rings, that sort of thing. And I was like, she's like 1,000 years old at this point. What do you mean younger?
Yeah.
She's older than the moon. What the heck are you talking about?
They don't understand how elves work. She was young in Valinor when she lived in heaven. By this time, there have been thousands of years since Valinor and the trees were destroyed and the elves came west to Middle Earth. She is literally several thousand years old by this time. She is in no way, shape, or form young.
Yeah, she's
Not even for
got
an
that
elf,
youthful energy and anger to her. At any rate, expect an extensive review once again of episode 2. And if you're thinking, oh well, I don't want to have to watch every episode. Of course you would want to watch every episode of this podcast. But I'm going to end up releasing these one at a time, like these discussions on the YouTube channel, and then I'll just combine them all as one big video when we're done. Just in case you want to revisit people having fresh eyes on Rings of Power and what their impressions are. And this is what's yeah, and we're going to build right up to Rings of Power Season 2. As we end this discussion, we're going to be doing the same thing into Season 2. So get hyped for that.
Oh gosh.
But yes, it was a time. It was a super time. So everybody, did anyone see The Acolyte?
No.
Yeah,
Why
the
would
show
I?
called The Acolyte came out. For those who don't know, it's a Star Wars related show on Disney Plus. It recently came out. There was hype. There really wasn't hype. There was expectation of this show. A lot of people were expecting it to not be very good. I don't want to get into the weeds of all of the nitpicky stuff. I'm going to do a quick conversation about what's happened in this thing. So, the first 2 episodes have aired. Essentially, we're getting young, diverse woman. These 2 twins, as you find out in the first 2 episodes, grow up in a group of witches. And in the group of witches, they all have force powers and stuff. And one of them gets taken by the Jedi. The other one, I guess, wants revenge. And it's presented like it's a murder mystery. And clearly the show wants you to get the impression that the Jedi are the bad guys. They covered up something horrible that they had done. And this group of diverse lesbian witches, and I'm not joking, they're lesbian witches, are getting their revenge or whatever for whatever the Jedi did. There aren't any, not that there has to be, but there is a clear representation that there are not any white men in any like main character position. It pretty much centers around everybody but that. And in fact, the only white men that have any conversations in the show happen to be prisoners, which is interesting. But whatever. If the show is going after characters from different planets or whatever, here's where it becomes a problem. They essentially imply that the Force is female,
right?
That it's a feminine trait because only women can, I guess, give the Force because it's partially life and stuff. But then they explain that the Force functions completely differently, than how all of the original lore is stated. And the writer, Leslie Headland, actually said that they got the Force incorrect with Lucas's stuff. And I was like, what do you mean incorrect? Like it was a thing? Like the Star Wars movies were just a thing and he got to it first and you're correcting? Like he invented this stuff. And,
he invented
and
the Force. So
right.
If anyone got it wrong, it's you.
Right. And so they redefined the Force as it's basically threads, and you pull on threads to manipulate things. And you use it for whatever. Which completely redefines the Force as no longer having a will of its own, but being something you manipulate. But whatever. Right. Maybe it's implying that this is a dark side thing, but they actually the twins are created because of two women. No man was involved in creating these twins.
Oh boy.
One lady used Force to impregnate another woman. And there have been a lot of inappropriate jokes about Force scissoring these twins into existence. But this is essentially how these twins were created. We've only got 2 episodes from the get-go.
Basically, right off the get-go, you've alienated the entire fan base. And so you're hoping that you can create an entirely new fan base of women who don't like Star Wars and won't go see this. And so you basically shot yourself in the face. I'm not going to say you shot yourself in the foot, because that would imply that you're just limping. Here you committed suicide.
I was going to say that would imply survival.
Well, and if you notice, the green person is in this trailer that's been playing. That's Leslie Headland's wife. Trinity so she got from the Matrix.
Nepotism.
Yes, Trinity from the Matrix is in this. She dies in the first episode, like the first 10, 15 minutes. Which is a waste.
There was a lot of hype for her. There was a lot of hype for having Trinity in this. I say Trinity. What is her actual name?
I forget.
But anyway, there was a lot of hype to have her in the movie, and yeah, they just they're just wasting everything.
It is, and we'll talk about some of the numbers really quick as we get into the news.
Carrie-Anne Moss.
Carrie-Anne Moss.
That was her name.
We'll talk about some of the numbers really quick in the reception of the show. And look, if you want to make this show, you're going to make it. If you saw in the intro here, Leslie Headland is clearly out that this is the gayest Star Wars that's ever been made, and they're proud of it. Yeah. So okay, do this show, but expect the reaction that you're going to get. And the show doesn't seem to be very good.
They're not going to blame themselves. They're not going to
blame anybody else that doesn't like
creating a bad show. Yeah, they're going to say that we're all bigots because we don't like what they produced.
Yeah, you are 100% correct. Let's see. The only other thing. I don't like their weird fanfiction. I know. Well, it's literal canon now. By the way.
Oh gosh.
The only thing I'll add is they're changing the Force. They're adding weird stuff. They're making the Jedi out to be bad guys. Like that's clearly what they're trying to do, is make them out to be like, oh, well, maybe the Jedi aren't that great. The only thing I'll add is that character with the weird helmet, if you see in the trailer, the joke is they're calling the person Smiler Ren because of the smile on the helmet. But the character clearly has like a voice mask over it, and that's supposed to be the person that's sending the acolyte out to do stuff, right? Why would you cover somebody's face and voice? Because you already know who this person is, right?
Yeah, we've already seen them in the show.
Okay. So the rumor is, and we don't know yet, but I would believe that the rumor is it's probably one of their mothers. And you're going to get the reveal at the end, oh, I'm not a boy, I'm a girl. And you're going to have that moment where it's like, I'm your mother.
Yeah.
Yeah. That likely seems to be where the show's going. Anyway, it seems to had a lot of really negative reception and is changing stuff. Film Threat, I know, has seen 4 episodes, and they said by the 4th episode it's literally irrevocably damaged Star Wars forever. So however you're going to view that, the Acolyte is here to stay, and it's come storming in to take over under Leslie Headland, which I might remind you, Harvey Weinstein's assistant. No, let me clarify. Harvey Weinstein's personal assistant. So you might ask yourself, with all of the inappropriate Me Too stuff going on, how did she not know? It's a conundrum.
The Distracted Gamer Podcast's big steaming pile of news dump.
All right. Well, we're going to go through the news as fast as possible because there's too much to go through. And I need to make sure I click the correct. There we go. So a bunch of drama happened with Adobe. Apparently, people found with the recent terms of service that Adobe is basically claiming worldwide royalty-free license to reproduce, display, and distribute any content that's made on their software. And it has caused a dramatic, angry backlash from people who use Adobe. And then apparently they tried to clarify, which didn't help.
Wait, we didn't actually mean that. We actually meant that we've always had this right to all your stuff in perpetuity, whether you created it on our software or not.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like the response. I didn't read through the full tweet because there's so much to go through, but he essentially responds by saying, that doesn't make it better. Like your clarification and your blog post does not reassure me. Anyway, financial analysts call Star Wars The Acolyte's global viewership pathetic and explains that only 3% of Disney Plus subscribers watched it. By the way, this show cost $180 million.
They're not going to recoup even a percent. They're not. I would be surprised if they made back 10% of that with this garbage.
Shifting on so we can address more of the Acolyte news. Apparently, the Acolyte show has the worst audience score of any Star Wars series or film on Rotten Tomatoes.
I wonder why.
Look at all of these tweets saying that that it's fresh. I believe the score, it says 32% right here. I think the score is lower now, but don't quote me on that. Even Book of Boba Fett, which wasn't universally liked, is at 53. So go figure. So much news to go through. The actress that plays the twin characters, she said that the Star Wars Acolyte show is purposely made to make white people cry. That's what they're trying to do. Now, she might have been saying it sarcastically. I saw the clip where she talked to Trevor Noah. But he basically asked, what do you want people to walk away with? And she says, well, white people crying actually was the goal. It sounds like, to be fair to her, it sounds like she's being sarcastic because of all the negative press. But that doesn't actually bode well for you because people are going to report it as, oh, you want to make white people cry. Anyway, moving on. Leslie Headland wants to make a live-action Knights of the Old Republic and ruin that as well, I assume.
Ruin that as well.
Shifting on, you might go, oh, why are you going through this so quickly? There's a lot of news. Shifting on, the Naked Gun remake has added professional wrestler Cody Rhodes, which if Ross was here, he might actually have an opinion about. But also includes Busta Rhymes and Liam Neeson, by the way. I don't know if it's going to be any good.
Liam Neeson, is Liam Neeson taking Leslie Nielsen's role?
I think so.
That
He's not classically a comedic character, but neither was...
Well,
Leslie Nielsen.
Neither was Leslie Nielsen. Yeah, it's so funny to go back and see some of Leslie Nielsen's old stuff and realize he was a dramatic actor, and somehow he just got into comedy and stuck the landing and stayed there. It just is so bizarre to see his trajectory into Hollywood.
Deadpan works for comedy, and it worked for him.
Behavior.
It's true. Behavior Interactive lays off 95 workers. If you don't know who Behavior is, they developed Dead by Daylight.
Oh no.
Mass layoffs seem to be.
Were they doing something stupid?
I don't know. I don't know if their game wasn't doing well or they're bloated with employees. Because the Just Cause developer Avalanche is closing 2 studios and laying off 50 people.
Yikes.
So it seems like we're getting video game layoffs. Now, this does happen because, believe it or not, a lot of gaming studios do function, unfortunately, like it's a gig rather than but they purge after game releases constantly. They just shove them out.
Yeah. There are so many horror stories in the gaming industry of programmers who they had a job and they showed up at the office the next day and they're locked out. And they just hire them on for the crunch. They get everything so it's an indeliverable state. They get shoved out the door to the consumers, and then they just massive layoffs.
Yeah,
so this could just be that kind of thing, but it could also
might
be that they're.
But there's practical slave labor that goes on in the developing community, and it's really bad. Not being paid what you're due, not being paid overtime, long hours where you sleep at the office for multiple days and you never leave, and it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Let's move on. Like a Dragon is going to get a live action adaptation. What was that, Jason?
There are a couple of video game studios that do treat their employees right, but by and far the majority seem to be the other kind.
Yes. Anyway, Like a Dragon getting a live action. I'm hesitant, but we'll see. It's coming from Amazon, so.
Yeah, Amazon's track record in live action adaptations is not good.
So hesitate, and we'll see where that goes in the future.
I mean,
moving on in the news dump.
Yeah.
Too much to talk about. So Eric Kripke, who is in charge of The Boys live action, said that The Boys was always about Trump. And if people don't want to watch it, they could go watch something else, which people seem to, because the last season or two didn't do super well.
That's what happens when you inject politics into your entertainment.
Look, if you're going to make it political, then make it political. Do that. Like if you're going to be, this is political. That's not what the original comic's about. But apparently you made the show about Trumpism, so make it political. But then don't be shocked when people don't show up because they don't like your political garbage that you put up there. Like it's a give and take. If I want to make a highly political, one-sided presentation of something, and then people in the opposite political spectrum don't show up for it, then don't get mad. Like, that's your problem. I mean, that's my problem, not yours. I'm the one that's trying to make a successful show. So if he wants to make it about Trump, then do that. It's not true to the original, and clearly it isn't reflecting positively on fans, because the first season was all right, and the next seasons were not good, and I think viewership dumped out. So
couldn't make it through the first episode, to be honest.
Yeah,
I started watching it, got part way into it, and was like, "This is garbage," and turned it off.
And much like everything is political, and we are in the holy month of June, the game director of Dragon Age Veilguard is saying that the game is inherently queer.
Oh my gosh.
Because everything has to be... Because clearly the most important thing about anybody, not who they are as a human being, their values, whatever, is their sexual orientation. That's the most important... Like, you are... Literally, if you tell me your sexual... Well, whatever. Literally, you could tell me nothing about who you are, and if you told me your sexual orientation and your gender identity, my expectation is I'm supposed to be able to predict your politics, your values, everything that's important to you. Like, people are weird in that way.
If somebody actually came up to me and did that, they're like, "Hi, my name is I'm, you know, and my pronouns are," I would tune that person out, to be honest.
Well,
You
you're
gotta
telling me
walk
what
on
you value.
glass with them.
You mean every class you have.
Walk on
Apparently-
glass.
Apparently,
Like,
there is
be careful about it.
apparently there's an 80% decline in the female audience from Mad Max Fury Road to Furiosa. So the movie that centers around a woman protagonist and doesn't have Mad Max in it, that doesn't do well in the theater, and everyone's like, well, it's misogynist men. Guess who didn't show up to watch it? The women didn't show up to watch the movie.
You know why they didn't show up to watch the movie? Because the Mad Max movies are not a genre that is typically women oriented.
Yeah.
And the men take their girlfriends to go see it with them. That's the only reason the women were seeing Mad Max in the first place. Now, I'm sure that there are some women out there who are like, huge Mad Max fans, because there are going to be some.
Sure.
But they're going to be the exception rather than the rule. And so when you make a Mad Max movie that doesn't have Mad Max in it, don't be surprised when the women don't come, because the men aren't interested in it.
And here's
men
the
are ones
secret.
that are going to be.
I heard Furiosa is all right. I heard it's pretty good. Not amazing. But because everything's presented as, yay, women and strong women, it's going to scare off your audiences because they're going to assume it's politically motivated in how they present.
Yep.
And that's not my fault.
Were the ones.
It's your fault. You have to get me to watch the movie. You are not owed my viewership.
No, you have to watch it. You have to.
Silver said
that's one of the other things that people don't understand about sequels. They create a good movie and people, or sequels of any kind. This can be sequels, books, comics, movies, television shows, what have you. Just because you did well on the first one does not automatically mean that I am invested in the next movie.
Viewership tends
to actually make a movie.
Well, viewership tends to decline.
But I want to come say, yeah, they do.
The voice actors for characters in Overwatch and Valorant said that for the month of June you can't play if you're not gay, which I think is a wise financial decision. And is going to go over well in the future.
You know what's going to happen here? Overwatch and Valorant their numbers are going to tank.
Overwatch 2 is not doing even remotely as well as the first one. It is not the same. But don't tell people. Here's a secret. Don't go out there and say, well, if you don't like it, don't watch it. Because guess what? People won't watch
it. People will take you up on that.
Yeah, they'll be like, all right.
With Doctor Who.
As we've seen with Doctor Who. As we saw with the comic book industry.
Examples.
As we saw with Star Wars, as we saw with Doctor Who. This has happened multiple times where they said, if you don't like it, don't watch it. And people went, all right. Much like this story. Valorant studio head Anna Donlon tells players to play something else. We won't miss you, while announcing player behavior policies and that they're leaning politically and blah, blah. Okay. I'm not going to play it.
We won't miss you?
Bye.
You won't yeah, I'm sure that they aren't. Yeah, they might not miss me, but they'll miss my money.
Dropping this really quickly, Konami confirms the Blooper Team's Silent Hill 2 remake is designed for modern audiences. That's a bad sign.
Yeah.
Silent Hill 2.
Anytime
we're
they
gonna
say modern audiences, I just groan inwardly and think
it's an indication that they're changing the original to update it for current political I don't want to say
It's not even
standards, more like attitudes.
they're not even updating it for like a current audience. They're updating it for the current political winds of change, if you will.
Yes. Yeah.
If they were updating it for current audiences, they would just like upres the graphics, maybe change a few minor gameplay features that didn't work in the original, maybe add a little bit more content. That's all they would do.
Uh-huh.
But because they're saying they're changing it for the modern audience, what they actually mean is we're changing this to align with the minority, the people who are screaming at us the loudest.
Well, whatever their
And so
perception
it's
is
gonna be
of
terrible.
politics.
Yeah.
It's funny. One of the more famous phrases you hear from people where it's like, well, it's whatever year. It's 2024 now. You know, your politics are. It's like, I don't care what year it is. I don't care what year it is. Don't tell me the year. It's 2024. Your politics have been so bad it still isn't working. Perhaps we should drop it. It's current year.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jason, why don't you take over, because this is sections of news that you did and you know more about it than I do.
Yeah. So the first one here, let me pull it up real quick.
Punisher revealed who the Batman of the Marvel Universe is, and I can't argue with it.
Yeah, it was an interesting one because it was like, I don't know. Basically, in this article, Punisher says that it's not that Punisher says that he's the Batman of the Marvel universe. The author of the article was saying that the way that he was described is they're describing Batman kind of thing. Basically, he says that it's Daredevil. And the reason that he gives for it being Daredevil is because Daredevil. Yeah, see, Moon Knight is more like Batman in certain terms, but he says that Batman is a planner. He goes in with a plan. He knows everything about the criminals that he's going up against.
I don't know. No. There's been countless occasions where Daredevil's run into situations he didn't know what was going on, and he'll kill people.
Yeah, but the thing is that apparently in Daredevil End of Days, Brian Michael Bendis and David Mack, Daredevil dies apparently, but right before that, Daredevil says a single word to Bullseye, and Bullseye then later goes and kills himself.
Okay. Well, that's I have a secret about you. I don't know about a plan.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's the thing. He knows, Daredevil knows his rogues gallery. He knows how they think. He knows how they act. He knows all their dirty, dark secrets. And that was what this article boiled down to, was basically that Batman keeps dossiers on everybody, and so does Daredevil. I was like,
I disagree. And also, Bendis is a hack. He's a douchebag who doesn't know how to write. Moving on. Spider-Man Who Laughs. This is something I'm probably also not going to like. Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, you're not going to like this one either. So Peter Parker is called into Oscorp. Apparently, they have this thing called the Living Brain. It's some sort of supercomputer. And when he gets there, it's actually a trap for Peter Parker, and he gets dosed with the Goblin serum. And so he becomes it's not he's not officially the Batman or the Spider-Man Who Laughs. That's just this article. He's basically like Spider Goblin or something like that now.
So he has Goblin insanity.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is so bad.
Yeah. Well, this is why I don't read modern comics.
I'm so tired of these comics and movies and television shows where they take a good guy and they turn him into a villain.
Yep. They're hacks, and Bendis doesn't know how to write.
And that's what they're doing with the Acolyte, making the Jedi look like bad guys.
It's because they don't know. Basically, their creativity is like, let's do a cynical writing style and take the good guys and make it like they're not really good. Because everybody's cynical and douchey.
And
Lego
we all know
Story.
how well their stories are doing. So the Lego Story, apparently they had a Lego event. It was Brickfest Live. It was supposed to be the biggest Lego festival in the UK. It's not officially affiliated with the Lego company, but apparently it was awful. There were just like half-built piles of Legos around and huge empty halls, and yeah, it was apparently they had this Willy Wonka experience
Well, that's something
went
that the
viral because
internet
it was
laughed
so
about.
bad.
Yeah, that's something the
Yeah.
internet laughed about for a while. I think we touched on it lightly on the podcast, where basically they charged people a bunch of money, and there was like this sad woman behind a counter trying to make people candy dressed as it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like another failure in the UK, which is where the Wonka experience also happened.
Apparently, this is so apparently this Brickfest Live thing has been going on for a while, and it started in the United States, I think it was, and so this is they're
is it
trying to
worse than last year?
franchise it out.
Or is this the first time it made it to the UK? And the UK version is terrible.
Yeah, this is the first time and it was just so disappointed. So disappointing to everybody.
Much like British food, everybody was disappointed. Robin's new origin perfectly merges Dick Grayson and Jason Todd into one hero. Okay.
Yeah, this is like an alternate version. It's called Batman Dark Ages, and apparently Bruce Wayne. It says a Bruce Wayne shaped by the events of American history. But if it's Dark Ages, wouldn't that be like England, not Europe?
I don't know what they're
the
talking.
United States.
Maybe they're implying. Bruce Wayne returned from Vietnam, and so he was messed up by Vietnam.
Yeah, and so now they have this false face society he rescues Gordon from, and then he has like Dick Grayson. So they have Dick Grayson, but they instead of having him be you know, an acrobat whose parents were killed or whatever, whose family was killed, he has Jason Todd. He has Jason Todd's background with Dick Grayson's name. So, yeah.
I
don't know.
Don't sound interested.
No, they're trying to do stuff, and it really isn't working for them.
Comics
they need to go back to the they need to go back to the basically the old Batman is the hero. He has
that's not going to happen, Jason.
And he fights crime in Gotham.
That's not going to happen.
Oh, I know.
Comics are dead. Like they're dead. There's no reviving it. They're run by politically motivated people who have agendas. Comic books they lack creativity. They lack respecting the source material. Everybody wants to put their own spin on it and change the story in a way. You know what's hard to do? Respect the past story and make a new story that doesn't damage everything behind it and make a good one. That's hard.
Yeah.
If you were a good writer, you could do that. Instead, just like, oh, I'm going to change everything in the past because I'm bad at this. They've canceled the Dungeons and Dragons TV show.
Well, they canceled it, but they're trying to shop it around now. So it was going to be on Paramount Plus, but now they're trying to find a different streamer for it.
Yeah.
So it could still come out.
It seems like Paramount Plus
apparently
might go through
Hasbro is really working on it.
So
we have too many streaming stuff.
Yeah, well, there's going to be a crash. A bunch of streaming services are going to go away. Lord of the Rings fans know surprisingly little about Rings of Power's most important character.
Okay. Before you go further into this article, who do you think the Rings of Power most important character is?
My guess would be Galadriel, but that's probably not going to be the case because Arondir is the main face in this image. So he's the most
Apparently-
important character?
Yes, because we know we know so much in the lore about what all the other characters did. We don't. Arendir can do anything that they want him to do. That's why he's the most important character. But the thing
Okay.
is that because the writers of the Rings of Power are not. This article is complete garbage. The reason being that the writers
It's
are not sticking
Jason.
to what the
Did you
characters actually
see?
did.
Did you see the website this came from? Anything that comes from this website is terrible.
Well,
no,
no,
they produce nothing of value.
No, I get it. The thing is that because there is no respect for the lore, and the characters in the Rings of Power show are already doing stuff that never happened and that they never did. We don't know what's going on. Any character could do anything at any time.
Well,
so I would
I
argue
guarantee you.
that
I guarantee
most
you what
important
they're talking
character,
about.
there isn't one.
I don't have to read this article. I guarantee you why he's writing it is because we are too constrained by the previous established lore. The characters have handcuffs on. They can't do anything interesting. That's why this character's awesome, because he could do whatever we want him to do. So we need to give him freedom to do whatever he wants. Blah, blah, blah. That's probably what this article's... Anyway, move on.
Yeah, that's exactly what the article says. But the problem that I see with this article is that the characters are already going off the deep end doing whatever the heck they want. So
it doesn't matter
Arondir
anyway.
is no more important than anyone else because any of the characters could do anything.
I see your point, but the problem is, Jason, all of the other characters have established lore, so fans will complain. You can't complain when they screw up Arondir because there's no lore for him.
Well, we can because they wrote a really bad character.
Well, he's also a melanated elf, which is inaccurate already.
Yeah.
But whatever. Anyway, they've already botched one iconic part of Tolkien's Tom Bombadil.
Yeah, apparently Tom Bombadil, according to Screen Rant here, Tom Bombadil is, well, we all know that Tom Bombadil is an upbeat, happy character. And according to what we've
Tom
seen
Bombadil
Tom
was a
Bombadil,
merry old fellow.
Yeah. Bright blue his jacket and his boots are yellow.
Yes.
That's an exact quote from The Fellowship of the Ring.
Yep.
And apparently this the Tom Bombadil that's going to be in season 2 of the Rings of Power is not this character.
We don't know. I don't know. I don't care about the speculation. All we know is the screenshot, and the screenshot makes him look like a depressed psycho.
Yeah.
So who knows? Maybe they make him a merry old fellow, but I would doubt it.
Oh, what did Galadriel do to you?
She touched him. She touched him when he didn't want it.
Oh.
Anyway, let's move on to the Chronicles of Narnia reboot that nobody wants.
Yeah. So the Chronicles of Narnia is getting a reboot. Greta Gerwig is the one in charge of it. And kind of one of the things about the Chronicles of Narnia, I don't know, have you read all of the books in the Chronicles of Narnia?
I vaguely remember reading some when I was young. I don't think I've read them all.
Okay. So I've read them all. The one that is eminently the most appealing, the best written, the most adaptable, shall we say, for the big screen is The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
So the first one.
The others, yeah, the others are not quite that good, and because of that, they really have a problem in ahead of them, and that's really what this article is about. That how are they going to do this new reboot? Are they going to start with the best one and then nobody's going to want to watch any of the other ones, or are they going to start with one of the ones that's not so good and build up to the better one?
I don't know.
Because
I'm checked
I
out
mean,
on. She's a terrible. What is she writing it, directing it? She sucks. Greta Gerwig sucks, and I don't anticipate to be very good. So I'm already checked out. Like, it's not going to be a great show.
no, it won't. They don't know how to do it right. Apparently, Mr. Freeze is immortal.
They've already changed
And
his
has been for
character
some
multiple
time.
times. How many do you have to damage Mr. Freeze?
Yeah.
Okay.
Apparently, Mr. Freeze has figured out an immortality serum, and he takes it to keep himself young and youthful and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's
And
the
it's
least.
separate from his ice-based abilities.
Okay, well,
and,
that's the least
book ship.
damaging thing to Mr. Freeze that they've done. the least damaging thing. At this point, it's like, okay. Like, if they'd have told me his being frozen, much like cryogenics, makes it so he doesn't age, I'd be like, all right. They don't have to make an elixir.
Exactly, that would have... Yeah.
I'd have just shrugged him in like, okay. Move on. Rings of Power finally fixes the Lord of Rings' biggest mistake 23 years later. What's the biggest mistake, Jason?
Yes. Before you go further,
Bombadil?
guess what? Yep.
Yes, I
Excluding
saw
Tom Bombadil was the biggest mistake.
That is not the biggest. Tom Bombadil's a confusing, weird character, and much as I like him in the books, it's fine if they took him out of the movie.
Yeah, he definitely did not need to be in the movie.
Sweet. 10 years, Superman will be the public domain. That may not mean what you think it does. What does it not mean?
So everybody thinks that, like, when something comes into the public domain, it's free game for everyone. And it really isn't. So 10 years from now, Superman will be in the public domain, but it will the one that will be in the public domain is the earliest version of Superman.
Yeah, they can't start making modern renditions of Superman.
No, because Superman has changed over the years, and the newer ones, the updated ones, those are still owned by DC and will be for years and years and years. So yeah, we may be able to see some stuff that is
No, you might
public
see
domain.
some efforts to do old school Superman. It's like when Winnie the Pooh and stuff went out to public domain, they made like horror movie Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah. Yeah. And look how well that did. Well enough to get a sequel,
Well enough,
surprisingly.
Jason. Actually, well enough.
Weirdly enough.
They've made sequels. Catwoman's version of Batman costume
Screen
she
Rant.
deserves it. Okay.
You are so stupid.
Why are
The
you
only
reading
person that
articles
deserves-
that you hate? Why do you do this to yourself?
The only person that deserves a turn in the cowl is Batman himself.
Azazel took over for a bit while Batman's back was broken.
He did, but he was a freaking crazy loon.
Dick Grayson took over for a
Apparently-
bit while Batman was gone doing other stuff. I know he took over when Batman was sent to the past because of
Yes. A bullet from Darkseid or something like that.
Yeah, that sent him into the past, and as he went to the future, he was going to explode and destroy everything. It was really bad story.
Yep.
I mean,
So
people
apparently they
can't
did a-
pick up the cow. I don't mind the story of Batman is lost, somebody picks it up, but it should be a character that fits. It should be Dick Grayson, or it should be Tim Drake.
Catwoman has no business in the cowl at all.
She has no business
Apparently
being
they
a
did
good guy. It's just people think she's sexy and they like her.
Yeah. Apparently they did a variant cover. If you scroll down on that article, they did a variant cover where they put Catwoman in the cowl. It's the next one down, right there.
But she
And
just
they
looks
put
like
that on the
Batwoman.
cover, and they're like, yeah, and they're like, oh, that Catwoman should totally be the next Batman. Like, no.
No, not Batwoman. I'm sorry,
Catwoman should be-
Batgirl. Batwoman would
Yeah.
have hair coming out
Catwoman
the
should
top
be
and look like a
Catwoman.
lesbian.
Okay, so the next article we have a trailer now for Venom 3.
Oh.
Um,
I never even saw Venom 2.
You didn't miss much.
I know.
So
did you see Venom 2, Silver?
Unfortunately.
Did you like it?
No. No.
The first one was better than 2.
I'm just gonna play it while you talk, Jason.
But there's a weird thing that they're doing here. Basically, so as we all know, there's no Spider-Man in the Venom verse, right?
Or it's just confusing, but
Well, they're trying to, yeah, they're trying to make, they're trying to make what they did was they cast a character who's played another character in the MCU. They cast the guy who played Baron Mordo in Doctor Strange. They cast him in this Venom 3, The Last Dance. And so for some reason, people are saying, "Oh, this could be a crossover with the MCU." Why would it be? It's just they cast an actor in a role, and it's not like they're calling him Baron Mordo. He's some sort of he's some sort of military dude, and that is not Baron Mordo. So why would we think that Baron Mordo is in? Why would we think that? See, there he is, right there. Why would we think that this
you
dude
said Baron
is
Mordo way more than I think anyone has.
probably? But why would we think that that's him, rather than just they cast him in the Venom movie? Anyway, it's stupid.
I hate.
I don't know
Here's
why
the thing. I like Venom as a villain. Venom as a hero is really stupid. Like it's just flat out retarded. He should never be a heroic character, and it's because he got too popular is the problem.
At best, he should be an anti-hero.
No. He's a villain. He eats people. No person that eats people is an anti-hero. He's just a bad guy. Flat out. I hate that they go, hey, this character's really popular. Let's make him a good guy. And it's like, that doesn't make up for all the murder.
No, it totally does.
No. I never bought Venom as a heroic figure, and I never will. It's like when they took Harley Quinn and made her a good guy, and it's like, no, she's a bad person. What about all the murder she participated? Well, it's fine now. She's good.
Yeah, now she's hardly
She switched
quit.
sides. Okay, so apparently in the Acolyte, Lucasfilm didn't want them to use. I have a bad feeling about this.
Oh. So there were just restrictions on using cliche lines.
Well, so apparently that has cropped up in like every major event in the cinematic Star Wars movies. So it's in like Luke Skywalker was the one who originally said it. They put it in the prequel trilogy. They put it in the sequel trilogy. So it crops up a lot, and for some reason, I guess LucasArts was thinking it's been overused, and so they were trying to get the Acolyte not to use it. But Leslie Headland, who we all know is a wonderful director and is in charge of a dynamite piece of property here, fought for it and really they needed to have this in the Acolyte. So it appears in the film or in the series.
I don't care.
So yeah.
So what? Anyway, Borderlands.
Borderlands, the clip looks like an SNL skit. It looks so bad.
It looked
It
bad
is
from the beginning.
Yeah, here's the trailer here.
Is that Kevin Hart?
Yes.
Yeah, that's Kevin Hart.
Oh.
Why they cast him as Roland, I don't know.
Roland's
He
supposed to
shouldn't
be a
Roland.
big, fit, muscular guy.
Yeah, if anything,
Well, it's because
Dwayne
Kevin
"The Rock"
Hart
Johnson.
funny.
Yeah, but Roland's not funny.
Yeah, but Kevin Hart funny.
So stupid. And then for some reason they cast Jamie Lee Curtis,
who's just much older now.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't fit with Tannis. Tannis was a young lady, much younger than Jamie Lee Curtis.
Well, they have Tiny
but
Tina, and Tiny Tina sucks.
Tiny Tina, yeah, Tiny Tina's annoying.
Tiny Tina should be thrown into a wheat thresher.
You can see how amazing that looks there.
Yeah, it doesn't look good. I mean, I could dwell on it, but I don't care enough about the property to feel anything emotionally about whether or not it's going to be any good.
And yeah, it's not going to be any good. It's going to be terrible. The only one that looks, I mean, Krieg. Yeah, Krieg is just a big muscular guy with a mask on, and then we have Firehawk. What's her name?
No idea.
Huh?
No idea.
It's
Woman.
Kate Blanchett. Yeah.
Kate Blanchett.
I don't know her name. Anyway.
It's Kate Blanchett. Yeah. She got transformed into the Borderlands universe. It's just Kate Blanchett.
Yeah. I want to say Lilith, but I know that's not right.
She starts quoting Lord of the Rings for some reason.
Yeah.
What are you doing, Kate Blanchett?
A great and powerful queen. Oh wait, no, I mean a siren.
I don't understand. Futurama.
Futurama. We're getting a season 12. Yep.
I saw season 11 and it was good.
Yeah, season 11 was fun.
Yeah. So sweet.
So there is something to look forward to. Season 12 could be pretty good. And then we have, if you're interested, the Stormlight Archive RPG. They're actually announcing that it is getting an official Kickstarter date. August. It's in here somewhere. August 6th.
I'm going to be honest. I checked out on Brandon Sanderson. He can suck a big one. So, if he's going to make a game or whatever, then fine. But I've checked
this
out
is going to be a
douche.
This is going to be a tabletop role-playing game based on his Stormlight Archive world.
Okay. Good for you. Go back to your hack writing. Stupid asshat. Anyway, I think we've run the course of the news. I didn't think we'd make it through, but we did. We do have one linger on. I'm going to do.
You want to ask about Brandon Sanderson, but that
another time.
Stuff. That fight scene that you have there is not from the first season, and it looks.
It's from terrible. Defenders.
Oh, it's from Defenders. Something happened there because that was the choreography for the first season was so amazing.
Yes, it got worse as time went on. We already had Craven.
Okay, so yeah, Tombstone. This week we have no. I needed to keep I realized that I needed to keep Craven because he made it past the first round, and so yeah. So he's there because I need that one still. Anyway, okay. Kingpin. Kingpin is 6'7", 450 pounds. all muscle, apparently.
Well,
Peak human strength.
Not
He is a
100%.
master martial
If he were all muscle,
Oh.
he would have health problems because you need some fat in your body.
Yes, he hit the bolt that you see there is mostly muscle.
Oh.
Um, apparently, this is according to his official Marvel bio. He's mostly muscle. He's very very lean. He just looks fat, apparently.
I guess.
Peak human strength. He is a master martial artist. He's a criminal genius, and
I don't know about that.
yeah. Apparently, he is. He could give Green Lantern a run for his money in the Will Department. That's at least
don't know
according to
about that
what I
either.
read there. His durability not that high, but his fighting skills are pretty up there. Intelligence higher than peak human. He's not very fast, and his strength is basically peak human, a little bit higher. Not definitely not on the super end of the scale. Go ahead and move to Tombstone. Tombstone is 6'7". He's 250 pounds, 215 pounds, excuse me. He does have superhuman strength, reflexes, stamina, and durability. You can see from there that his strength is much higher than Kingpin's. His durability, again, much higher than Kingpin's. The fighting skills are around the same. Tombstone is faster than Kingpin. When I first was looking at this, I was thinking Kingpin would win, but after I was looking at this, I don't think Kingpin is winning.
Kingpin's never been, and it should be clearly emphasized, has never been known solely for his fighting prowess, and I don't know why.
No.
They've emphasized his master in martial arts. That's not a thing with him, but he's considered, believe it or not, a low-grade mutant.
Yes.
That being said, he's like criminal mafia man bully. He's not really like Kingpin doesn't go out and steal stuff. He organizes and he bullies his way through normal people because he's bigger than normal people. Whereas Tombstone is a supervillain-esque sort of person. He's the sort of person Kingpin sends out to go bully people.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Tombstone is one of the people that works for Kingpin. But as I said, I think that Tombstone in a straight up fight with Kingpin, I think Tombstone would come out on top.
Probably. I kind of waffled. I thought about this during the week, but honestly, Tombstone probably wins. He's just stronger and more durable and better. He's more superhuman. Now, realistically, if they ever cross paths, Kingpin would never get in a situation where he had a straight up fist fight with him. He would have like 400 goons or something with him. So it'd be unlikely that this scenario would play out the way that it does. But in a straight up fist fight without assistance, where Kingpin would have assistance, Tombstone would win.
Yeah.
So yes, that's how it plays out.
So Tombstone moves on. Kingpin is out this round, and we will have a new matchup for you next week.
Do you notice how we didn't ask Silver's opinion because we don't care?
Silver, do you have an opinion?
I heard on the inside. No, I don't see his lackey basically defeating him.
Yep.
So yeah. Same as yours, Kingpin.
No, we said Tombstone.
Sorry, Tombstone.
You get your own opinion.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
What are you going to be up this week, Silver? Tell us about your life. You do anything interesting? You gonna watch any shows?
I
He's
didn't.
gonna watch episode 2.
Yeah,
I've done nothing with my life.
All right. Well, maybe we'll get on and hang out and play games or something.
We can do that.
Because if you're going to give me bummer conversations, wow, I do nothing with my life, then I'm going to be like, well, then let's hang out.
Let's have another bee lawyer conversation.
Yes. Let's elaborate on the bee lawyer conversation. Jason, what's your week looking like?
Well, I'm taking some vacation time this week, so that's nice. I don't have to worry about work, but I'm going out of town, and I have a wedding to go to as well this week. So,
What are you going out of town for?
Just to spend time with my family, really.
Do you ever think of leaving one behind because they're lower down the totem pole?
No, actually.
Do you ever think to yourself, you're not as good as your siblings?
No.
Which one's the worst
but
one? Be honest.
You never thought
it varies from day to day.
Would be better.
The scale shifts from day to day. They move up and down the scale, so it's hard to say which one's at top or bottom.
It's like that John Lithgow when he was in Third Rock from the Sun, and he's doing the tip, where he has like the tip on the table, and he like takes money away and puts money back, and just frazzles the waiter.
Well, if you ever see the Iron Claw, the father in the show literally has ranked his sons, and he's like, well, now Kevin's number 1, but you guys can move up the scale, whenever. You just gotta work hard. He's my favorite. And it's like, yeah, I want to do that. Just give my kids complex about how they're not good enough. Consider that, Jason. It's an alternate parenting theory.
Any parent who doesn't who plays favorites with their kids is doing their kids a disservice. But any parent who doesn't admit that sometimes there's one kid that they're ticked off with is also fooling themselves. Yeah. Because you're no kid is a perfect little angel all the time. And,
you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do the thing where once a year they have to wrestle me, and until they can beat me, they're not considered an adult. So I just body everybody for the rest of their lives.
What is it like?
Up your infant.
Defeat the father, you become the new chief or something.
Yeah, I'll suplex children. I'll do that. You think I won't? You don't think I have the capacity to pull something like that off? I'll suplex a child.
Oh, you definitely do.
I don't doubt it.
I'm glad that everybody's on the page that I'm a horrific child beater. We all agree.
Yep.
Punching babies is the best. They're soft and they don't hurt your knuckles.
If I ever need somebody to punch a baby, I know exactly who to call.
Excellent. Keep me on speed dial.
Who are you gonna call?
Baby punchers. And it's just me with a thumbs up. He's like, I'll do it. You're like, does anyone actually call? Shockingly, people do call. Sometimes it's a joke. But sometimes it's sad. Sometimes it's sad.
Sometimes they're buried out back.
Well, guess what, everybody? We've gotten right up to the end of the podcast with all of the drama we've had to talk about. My goodness. We've had a healthy discussion in Rings of Power. Kind of went through the episode on why we did or didn't like it. Secret, we didn't like it.
Clear alert. Jeez.
Yeah, the drama of Star Wars and all the reflections of that. If you enjoyed the podcast, blah, blah, blah. It always feels chintzy and gimmicky. How do I put it? Desperate, where you're like, comment, subscribe, share with your friend. I mean, if you actually like it, then we would like to know if you like it, or share with your friends, and all that's cool. But enough. If not, screw you. I'll punch your baby.
If I say please, will you?
I'll punch your baby hard.
Not punch a baby. Like and subscribe. Badly timed.
No, anyway. Thanks, everybody. I love you platonically. Goodbye.
Bye.
If you like the show, follow Rhett, Jason, Ross, and Silver, the world's most lethally stupid internet personalities, on Twitter at DG Podcast or on Instagram at Distracted Gamers. If you liked or hated what you heard here today, you can email them at thedistractedgamers@gmail.com and share your feelings. Not that Jason would care, since he hasn't any, of course.
Oh my God, it's so juicy!